Hello, everybody. A very, very warm welcome to all of you to this webinar from GMAT Viz on 4 common frameworks or patterns or construction types on the GMAT CR questions. Hi, Nicholas, Atul, Sneha, Kushi, Anume, Sukesh, Sahil, V, Sarah, Manas, Avasthi, Durga. All right, these are some of the names that are visible at my end, and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. While the others are still joining, here's a quick poll for all of you so that I know I am audible to all of you. Let me know on the polls. Okay, great. It seems I am clearly audible to everybody present. That's wonderful to know. Okay, so once again, a very warm welcome to all of you who have taken out the time on this Sunday and are here to attend this webinar. Okay. Now, how many of you believe that GMAT CR questions have a certain pattern? I'm just going to put out a poll here. So let me know how many of you believe that there are certain patterns or certain types to GMAT CR questions. And by types, I don't mean assumption, strength, and weaken. No, not that type. Types means we're talking about the patterns or the structures of these questions. How many of you believe that there are some common structures and patterns? Okay. So 60% of you believe that there are common structures or patterns, and the remaining 40% either don't believe so or don't know. All right. So I'm going to today talk to you about certain things, but why are we going to even discuss these frameworks? Why are we going to discuss these patterns? Let's see all of that. Okay, we will talk about all of that. My name is Sunita, and I'll be your host this entire evening. I have tons of teaching experience. In fact, as of today, it's over 13 years of teaching experience, and I've mentored many, many, many students. 30,000 is probably an underestimation. I've done a lot of one-on-one tutoring, group classes, and of course, I'm taking webinars. I have also curated the entire verbal GMAT, the verbal part of GMAT on GMAT Viz. I've scored the 99 percentile in the verbal section a couple of times, and over and above all of this, I love teaching. I love listening to the problems students are facing while solving questions, while attempting the exam, and I feel very happy when I'm able to help them out, which is why I'm there in this profession. So, yes, let's get started. Now, what are we going to learn today? I'm going to talk about 4 common patterns that you can identify in different question types, whether it is an assumption question, strengthen question, weaken question. There are certain common patterns. All right. They are not the only patterns, but they are common patterns. And wouldn't it be great if you could pre-think with a guided pre-thinking on these patterns? I'm sure you face issues with pre-thinking. So we're going to talk about what are the frameworks you can use to pre-think quickly and effectively on these common patterns, all right? And we'll see firsthand the power of applying these frameworks. Okay, we are going to solve some 700 plus level questions. So let's get started. Okay, all right. Now at GMAT Viz, we have this concept called pre-thinker's guide. Okay, guide to a pre-thinker. That means what should a student who is trying to pre-think do? Okay, now during my one-on-one tutoring sessions, during my teaching sessions, during my webinars, one of the things that students constantly asked me was, I don't know how to pre-think. I really don't know what to do after reading the stimulus and the question, and I'm like blank. Okay, so some students would say they are blank. Some would say that they try to think, but they either end up overthinking or they end up thinking in the wrong direction, which means they sometimes come up with half-baked assumptions. They come up with sometimes totally incorrect assumptions, and that leads them to choose the incorrect answer choice. And because of this, a lot of time and effort is wasted, right? So what was the solution? And after a lot of research, assembling of different questions from the official guides and the official sources, clubbing them together, The solution that we could think was that there must be something that can be held in common and identified in common to help these students pre-think. And that gave rise to the Pre-Thinkers Guide. I'll share the link with you, the link to the free trial version of our course, and you can take a look at the Pre-Thinkers Guide. But basically, what is this guide? It is a simple framework or a simple guideline that you can use to pre-think very quickly and accurately on certain question types. All right. And using this, you can save a lot of time. So let us discuss these four most common construction types. And once again, let me tell you, these are not the only types, but these are the most common ones. Okay. These common constructions you will typically find on the assumption family questions. That means you will find them a lot in questions on assumptions, strengthen, weaken, and evaluate. Okay, this is what we call the assumption family. And here you will find these common patterns. What are these patterns? The first pattern is what we like to call plan and goal questions. Okay, now in these question types, you'll find that there is a plan mentioned in the passage, and the plan has a certain goal. Okay, some details can be given to you about how the plan will work and what is the expected goal. And the conclusion will either ask you to identify where how the plan is going to be successful, or the plan is going to fail, or you can evaluate whether the plan is going to succeed or fail, right? Then we have this what we call causality based questions. So a causality question is one where the conclusion contains a causality. Causality means something caused something. X caused Y. All right. This kind of language, when it is mentioned in the conclusion, it is called a causal argument, and very commonly found throughout the GMAT CR assumption family questions. The conclusion contains a cause and effect, and you might be called upon to identify the assumption behind the causality, strengthen the causality, weaken the causality, evaluate it, and so on. Today, we are going to discuss these two construction types in detail so that in future, whenever you see a plan and goal question, and let me tell you, it is a very common construction. Whenever you see a causal argument, you will be able to apply these common frameworks. A lot of our students have been able to apply these frameworks and really improve their scores on CR. All right. Uh, so Khushi is asking a question. Sorry for the interruption, guys. Will we be able to get to about a 95 percentile from an 80% accuracy on the GMAT? Yes, Khushi, it is doable. In fact, I am doing that with my students almost on a regular basis. I do a lot of one-on-one tutoring with students who, let's say, are already at a maybe verbal 81 or 82, and they want to get to a verbal 85 or 86. And it is doable. At least if you are at a verbal 82 or 83 and you want a very high score on verbal, give yourself at least about 15-20 days, and you will see results. Okay, continuing with the discussion. So these are the two types that we are going to discuss today. The other two types I'm just going to mention briefly, but not discuss in the session today because we don't have that much time. This is what we call comparison questions. Comparison questions, you have arguments where the author is comparing two scenarios. So the two scenarios can be two people, two methods, two programs, two, let's say, products, two schemes, all right? Two different kinds of promotion, anything, two different scenarios, and a comparison is being drawn between those two. Either the author will say this is better than the other, or that is better than the other, previous one. Okay, so some advantage of one scenario is given, or sometimes a disadvantage of another scenario is given, and the conclusion says that this scenario is better than the other one, and you have to either support that, weaken that, evaluate that, and so on. So comparison based questions. And then quant based questions. I'm sure you have come across questions where they are talking about ratios and percentages and profits and the like. All right. These questions require you to be able to kind of do small, minor quantitative calculations, which are mostly figured around you understanding the language. In fact, sometimes the same question can have multiple, a combination of constructions. For example, you can have a plan and goal question, okay, which requires you to make some quantitative calculations. Or you can have a question where there are two plans which are being compared. All right. So let's get started. The first, now, before we get started, I was telling you a little while back that some of my students have been able to really scale their scores in CR really, really very fast with the help of these frameworks. Okay. In a very short span of time, and after struggling for a long period, these two students, there are lots others. You can search on YouTube, GMAT Wiz YouTube, and and you will get more data about our students who have done well on CR and overall in verbal. And the framework approach has helped them immensely, which is why you should definitely give this a chance. Again, you need to practice with this. So we are going to discuss the frame and goal plan and goal framework. And for that, I have brought up a question here for all of you. I want you, now this question is designed in such a way, I mean, it's an official question, first of all. I want you to attempt this question whichever way you do it right now. And then I'm going to show you the plan and goal framework, okay? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Your time starts now. And I'm going to mute myself in the meantime. All right, your time is up. I'm going to count 5 and then I'm going to close the polls, okay? So please put in your answers quickly. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. It seems the race is really between just two options, but I don't know if that's correct or not. 37% of you have voted for D and 62% of you have voted for E. Now, there is a quick question that I want to put to all of you. Okay. Can you tell me what was the plan and what was the goal? Can you type in the chat box, all of you, just write plan, colon, and write down the plan, goal, colon, and write down the goal. I just want all of you to type plan and goal in the chat box. Go ahead. Yes, I'm waiting for your responses. What is the plan and what is the goal? Durga, that's the goal or that's the plan? So, Giriraj, what was the plan mentioned in the question that I just now brought up? And what was the goal in that question? Okay, Sukesh and Sahila saying uh, to grow the new variety of SPK4 is the plan. Correct, absolutely. So, all of you have got the plan right. The plan is to introduce a new variety of sweet potato. All of you have got that right. Now, what is the goal? What is the goal, guys? So let's see. Pooja says the goal is to reduce deficiency. Sukesh says the goal is to reduce deficiency. Um Khushi says the goal is better vitamin A levels. Manu says goal was improve vitamin A deficiency. Atul says vitamin A deficiency, improve vitamin A levels. Giriraj says, so all of you think that the goal is to decrease the problem of vitamin A and increase vitamin A levels, right? Now, I'm going to bring up the question once more. Can you please read the question stem and tell me what is the goal? All of you have got the goal wrong. All of you. The goal is not about vitamin A deficiency. Can you read the question again and tell me what is the goal? Again, I'm saying the goal is not about improving vitamin A deficiency. Read the question, read the stimulus and tell me what is the goal. Yes, anybody? Very good, Giriraj. Now you can see that the goal is improving nutrition. No, Durga, the goal is not reducing health problems for children. So, again, a lot of you have got this question right. A lot of you have got this question wrong. Point is not whether you got it right or wrong. Point is, did you get it right for the right reason? Almost all of you got the goal wrong. And that could be a reason why you might have gotten this question wrong. Okay. So, for me, if your reasoning is wrong, I don't care whether you got the question right. Let's understand the framework. Okay. Now, in order to get the framework correct, in order to use a framework, you have to read and understand the argument correctly. Most of you have misunderstood the goal. All right. And this framework is to be applied during the pre-thinking stage. So what the stimulus, here's the stimulus for you. And we have to support the prediction that the plan will succeed. Let's see how to analyze the stimulus. Now, step one is to break down the sentences and read them. The first sentence says, in parts of South America, vitamin A deficiency is a serious health problem. And this says, especially among children. Does it mean it is a health problem only in children? No. It just says that it is a problem, especially among children, but doesn't mean it is only among children. So the first sentence of the passage is just stating a problem for you. Okay. Now let's read the second sentence. In one region, agriculturists are attempting to improve nutrition. Okay. So they are not just attempting to improve vitamin A deficiency, but the attempt is a bigger attempt. They not only want to improve vitamin A deficiency, probably that's a sub part of it, but they want to attempt the overall nutrition. That's our goal. And by doing what? By encouraging farmers to plant a new variety of sweet potato called SPK4 This SPK4 is rich in beta carotene, and the beta carotene will get converted into vitamin A. So the second sentence contains a plan and a goal, and the goal is to improve nutrition, and the plan is to grow a new variety of sweet potato. The mechanism of the plan is there is beta carotene which will get converted into vitamin A. But look at the interesting part. They are laying a trap for you in the first sentence, making you think this is the goal, but the actual goal is mentioned in the next sentence. So be very careful when you are reading the stimulus. So here, the goal is to improve vitamin A deficiency. And the author the author is saying the plan has good chances of success, which is the conclusion. And to support it, the author is saying even right now there are people, I mean the sweet potato in general is eaten by a lot of people in that region. It's a staple, and current varieties don't have much beta carotene. So these three statements are all facts presented to support the conclusion that the plan has good chances of success. We have to support the plan, right? So how to apply the framework? Now, the first step of the framework is to understand the exact plan. Everybody here today in the webinar understood the plan, and the plan was to plant a new variety of sweet potato called SPK4. This is the first step. Step 2 is to identify the exact goal, and this is where almost all of you went wrong. Be very precise when you're identifying the goal. Don't fall in traps. You can write down the goal if you want. The goal was to improve overall nutrition, not just to improve vitamin A deficiency. Okay. And the third step is to follow 3 guidelines. So step 1, identify the exact plan. Step 2, identify the exact goal. And in step 3, you have further 3 guidelines. Guideline number 1, ask yourself, what happened when the plan was being made? I mean, put yourself in the shoes of the planner and think what the planner was expecting to happen. Okay? Think what are the steps that would need to be completed to undertake the plan, to execute the plan. There might be some unknown factor. So, say for example, if you want to grow SPK4, then you need to know whether the conditions in that region are successful. So, if the conditions are not successful, then you cannot execute the plan. That means one of the strengths that the author has, one of the things that the author has assumed is that the conditions in the region are favorable for growing SPK4. Okay. So whenever you have a plan and goal, one of the steps that you can use to pre-think is what are the things the planner has expected will go in favor of the plan. So in order to grow SPK4, you need to have conditions that are favorable. This is our first strength now. Let's go to the second guideline. Second guideline is what happened during the execution stage. Now in this question, the plan has not yet been put into action, but we can think ahead, right? We can ask ourselves that, okay, do we know about any other benefits of SPK4? We know it has beta carotene, but in order to improve overall nutrition, we also need to know more about SPK4. What if SPK4 has something negative? Okay, it is going to provide vitamin A, but what if it reduces some other vitamin for people who are eating it? What if it lacks in some other nutrition or nutrient? Then your plan will fail. I mean, vitamin A will improve, but something else will decrease. So the agriculturists have thought that SPK4 does not lack in any other nutrition or any other nutrient. Okay, that's our second strengthener, thinking that there is no negative impact of SPK4 on the health. So that's the second guideline. The third guideline is if you can note any connection between the plan and goal. For example, in this case, for the plan to succeed, that means for people to reap the benefits of SPK4, they should be willing to eat it, they should be able to afford it, all right, they should like the taste of it. If they don't like the taste, all right, then what will happen? So that is a connection between the plan and goal in this question. For different questions, the connection can be different things. So in this case, agriculturists expect people to accept and eat the new variety. Sorry, everybody. I just needed a sip of water. Throat was dry. So sorry for that interruption. Let's continue. We were talking about the people would like the taste of that sweet potato, the new variety. Because if they don't like the taste, the plan will again fail. Okay. So that is another thing that the author has assumed, the agriculturists have assumed, that people in the region will be willing to eat the new variety. So you can see by following the three guidelines, we were able to come up with three strengtheners, right? And using those three strengtheners, we will now go to our next stage, which is answer choice elimination. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, will we have enough time in the exam to put this whole process into action? Now, see, guys, when you're practicing something, it takes time. But really, have I really given you a very difficult task? Now, when you're reading the stimulus, your job will be to read the plan correctly, so that you're already doing. Your job will be to identify the conclusion correctly, which you need to do. And the third thing is you just need to put yourselves in the place of the planner and think, what are the things you need to convert, need to have successfully happen for your plan to take place. And if you have carried out the plan, are there any negative side effects that can happen? Can you take care of them? Or think about any connection between the plan and goal depending on that particular question. You don't have to use all three guidelines. You can just use one simple guideline and come up with one strengthener and simply go to the answer choice elimination. But at GMAT Wiz, we encourage students to train their brains to pre-think. And during the learning stage, we want them to push themselves to pre-think more and more. All right. So I'm just going to quickly share two links here before I move to the answer choice elimination. All right, these are the links to the free trial version of the course, and there is a link to set up a free call with our strategy experts who can help you out with the problems that you're facing in your prep right now. If you feel your scores are not moving beyond a certain point, you've tried everything yet nothing's happening, you can connect with us and talk to us. Okay, now with those three strengtheners, we are going to eliminate the answer choice. We call our step 3 ACE. Nobody marked A. A is incorrect because A says that there are other vegetables that you can grow for beta carotene. This talks about an alternate plan. Our concern is the new variety. So this is out of scope. Nobody marked B. B talks about the flesh of SPK4 is different and the traditional foods would look different. Now, different could be good different or bad different. All right, that's not clear from the sentence. So this choice cannot really have a very clear impact. It's a very ambiguous impact we have here. This is also out. Nobody marked C. C says that for successful cultivation of SPK4, you need a different kind of soil. Okay, a soil that is richer in nitrogen. But this choice doesn't tell us whether that condition is present in that region or not. It just says what is needed. Had this choice told us that the condition that is needed is also present in that area, then it would have been a strenuous. So currently, this is out of scope. Finally, we come to the last two options. Now, D says there are no other varieties of sweet potato that are significantly richer. This choice kind of just repeats what we already know from the passage. This is a repetition of this premise. The last sentence says current varieties don't have much beta carotene. Choice D says that the new variety has more beta carotene, but that we already know. We call this the distortion trap at GMAT Quiz. Okay, this is just a distortion. Option D is just a distortion of the given information. And we know that for strengthening questions, we need new information. Let's come to E, which is the correct answer. E says the currently cultivated varieties of sweet potato contain no important nutrients that SPK4 lacks. It means that SPK4 has all the nutrients of the current variety plus it has beta carotene. That means there is nothing lacking in SPK4. And with nothing lacking in SPK4 plus the beta carotene, it is going to improve nutrition. Do let me know if the explanation is clear, guys. Okay. I'm just going to quickly bring up a poll for you to answer. Let me know if the explanation is clear. I deliberately chose a question which is not too difficult so that you would be able to follow how the framework has been developed. Okay. All right. Let's move to, so let me give you a question to solve. There is another plan goal question. Go ahead. I'm going to give you 3 minutes because I want you to try the plan and goal framework. Okay, just try it. Identify the plan, identify the goal, think about the planning stage, think about the execution stage, think of anything else that connects the plan to the goal. Okay, get started. Your time starts now. Your 3 minutes are up. So I'm going to count 5 and end the polls. Please put in your answers. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's see the poll results. So 73% of you have marked B, 6% of you have marked C, and 20% of you have marked E. Now, there's a quick question that I want to ask here. Okay, Rutvika says the plan is to make Pundra week. Absolutely. And what's the goal? In the meantime, how many of you tried to use the framework? So I'm just putting up a quick question here. Goal is to increase exports. Now, increasing exports is not the precise goal. Okay. Increasing exports is not the precise goal. Yes, can you please answer the polls? I have put out a poll there for you. Let me know how many of you tried to use the framework, and if you tried, I know you cannot do it in one learning, but how many of you all tried to use the framework, and if you did it help? Very good, Atul. So Atul has given the precise goal. Increase exports like before. So the goal is not just to increase exports, but to increase exports to the extent it increased in the past. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for trying, guys. That's really heartening to see, because 73% of you marked the correct answer. But let's see whether all of your reasoning was on target or not. So here we are, 12 years ago and again 5 years ago, okay, twice in the past. There were extended periods. Extended means long periods, when Darfur's public currency, the Pundra, was weak. Okay, so the author is giving us a fact that twice in the past, the Pundra was weak. And what does the word weak mean? Its value was unusually low when compared to the world's most stable currencies. Okay, so twice in the past, Pundra was weak. But why is the author giving me this information? Let me see. Both times a weak Pundra made Darfur's manufactured products a bargain on world markets. A bargain means it made the manufactured products cheap on the world market. And Darfur's exports were up substantially, very important. So basically, there is a cause and effect mentioned here, that a weak Pundra, weak P, let's say, it actually caused the exports of manufactured goods to increase a lot, substantially. I'm going to put 2 arrows. Okay. All these are facts, by the way. Now, some politicians are saying that in order to cause another similarly sized increase in exports. So it is not just increase in exports, but similarly sized. And this is the precise goal. Okay. You might ask, how does it matter if we don't take into account similarly sized? The point is, a small increase is also an increase. A huge increase is also an increase. So are we looking to just increase it by a small margin, or do we have to look out for a huge margin? All right, the kind of answer choice you choose will be impacted by what you have considered as your goals. 30% of you have gotten this question wrong almost. So it means you did not think in the right direction. Okay. Anyway, so let's come back to this. And even if you've gotten it right, did you think in the right direction is what you need to check when I'm explaining the solution. The government should allow the Pundra to become weak again. So we have the politicians drawing the conclusion that if you want another similar increase in export, the Pundra should be weakened again deliberately. All right. Okay. So why should we do this? Because twice the weak Pundra actually helped to increase Darfur's exports of manufactured products. Now we've got to weaken this argument, right? The question stem says we have to provide the strongest grounds to doubt that the recommendation will achieve its aim. So the plan won't work, which means we are looking for any new piece of information that shows that weakening the Pundra will not cause another similarly sized increase in exports, which means you might have an option which says exports will increase by a small amount. But you are looking for a choice that will say that exports will not increase by a huge amount. All right, even if you weaken the Pundra. That's our scope. Now, what's the exact plan and goal? Weaken the Pundra is the exact plan. The exact goal is to cause another similarly sized increase in exports. Okay. Now, what are the three guidelines? What happened during the planning stage? Well, who are the planners here? The politicians. What did they think? Well, they thought that whatever happened in the past, the same thing will repeat itself now. So any statement which says history will not repeat itself will be a weakener. Okay. Similarly, what happened during the execution stage? Well, we want to increase the export of manufactured products, which means we should be able to actually increase our capacity of manufacturing products. What if the manufacturing industries cannot increase their capacity, cannot produce more? Then how are we going to export? Okay. And finally, if you want to sell Darfur's products on the world market, there should be demand for those products. So the demand for Darfur's manufactured products on the world market is what connects the plan to the goal. We can have a weakener along these lines. All right. Now let's move to the answer choice elimination. None of you marked A. Now A is like a strengthener. It says the politicians now recommending that Pundra should be made weak made the same recommendation twice before. Since we know that in the past it worked, so this is more like a strengthener and therefore it is not the correct answer. Now, all of you need to see whether you rule this out for the right reason. If you're not ruling out options for the right reason, that means you're going to face problems in your actual attempt. B is the correct answer. 73% of you marked this correctly, and I do hope the framework helped you to an extent. What B is saying is, after many decades of operating well below peak capacity, Darfur's manufacturing sector is now operating at near peak level. That means currently, if the peak means maximum, if the peak capacity of the manufacturing industry, let's say for example, is 1000 units, this choice is saying that Darfur is manufacturing almost close to this. That means let's say Darfur's manufacturing industries are manufacturing 900. That means the scope to increase production is only 100. This only 100 may not lead to the similarly sized increase because earlier the increase was substantial. And that is why similarly sized is very important. So AB is the correct answer. It tells you that even if Pundra is made weak, we may not be able to see a similarly sized increase in exports. Okay, we might be able to see an increase of, let's say, a small unit, but not similarly sized. Okay. Those of you who haven't understood it, please look at the recording once again in the interest of the time limitations that we have. A small 6% mark C. Now, C is out of scope. Look at what C is saying. The economy of a country experiencing a rise in exports. Now, we are talking about a country which is already going through an increase in export. All right. Whereas in the passage, we are looking to increase the exports. Also, health of the economy is not our concern. Our concern is, to increase the exports in a similar as the past manner, which is, so this is out of scope. Nobody marked D. Again, D is more like a strengthener, guys. If the countries that compete with Darfur, if their currencies are stable, that means their currencies are of more value, which means that Darfur's products can become a bargain on the world market. And if it becomes a bargain, then it can sell more. So this is a strengthener and therefore not correct. So if you have ruled out the options for the right reasons, then you are on the right track. E is not the answer because E is telling us that there is an alternative way of increasing exports. Are we concerned with the alternative way? No. Okay. There can be 10 different ways of improving the exports, but we are concerned with only one way. We have to identify is that particular way, which is weakening the pundra, will that work or not? He is saying we don't need to weaken the pundra, and therefore this is out. Okay, 20% of you mark this, and I hope it is clear to all of you why it is not the correct answer. So yes, guys, do let me know if the explanation is clear so that we can move to the second framework, which is causality framework. This was the framework to be used to pre-think for plan and goal questions. Those of you who've not understood, please, I'll be pleased to clear your doubts. Please put your doubts in the chat box regarding this question, and I'll be glad to help you out. Yes, please put your doubts. I'm waiting for you to ask your questions since some of you all did not. Right, I don't see any doubts coming up. Once again, I'll just quickly ask all of you, is the explanation to this question clear? Okay, I guess there are no doubts. All right, so let's move to our second framework. Now, the causality framework, before talking about the framework for causal arguments, let me discuss what is a causality. Okay. In a lot of GMAT CR questions, especially assumption, strengthen, weaken, and evaluate, you will find that the conclusion contains a cause and effect relationship. It says event A, something caused something. So, event A caused some event B. And in such a situation, the event that led to another one is called the cause, and the outcome is called the effect of that cause. All right. I want you to read this example here quickly. Okay. So the unusually low amount of rainfall resulted in low production of corn. So you see, unusually low amount of rainfall this year is the cause, and low production of corn is the effect. If you have such a connection mentioned in the conclusion, it is called a cause-effect relationship. All right. Now, there are three basic assumptions. That means the assumption is same in any causal argument. Any causal argument that contains a causality in the conclusion will have the same assumptions. Okay. What are these assumptions? I'm going to show you with the help of this example here. Please read the example. Okay. The number of vehicles being driven on the roads has increased in the last 1 year, along with an increase in air pollution levels. So, two things happened at the same time, event A and event B. Okay, they happened around the same time. The author does not specify which one happened first. The author just says along with. Okay, but look at the conclusion that the author is drawing. Thus, the exhaust from the vehicles must have led to the increase in pollution level. So the author, without telling us which event happened first, is telling us that event A caused event B, right? The author draws a cause-effect relationship in the conclusion, and this argument is therefore causality. So what are the assumptions this author has made while drawing this cause-effect relationship? Let's see. Number one, the author has assumed, without really telling us, that event A must have happened before event B. So although the stimulus says it happened around the same time, the author has assumed while making the conclusion that the number of vehicles must have increased first, and then the increase in the air pollution happened. All right. Second assumption is, in a causal causal argument, the core assumption is that there is no other event that caused the effect. So no alternative cause is assumption 2. The author assumes that nothing else could have caused the effect. And number 3 is, there is no reverse causality. That means the effect did not lead to the cause. That means here the author is assuming that number of vehicles did not increase because of air pollution. All right. So these three assumptions: event A must have happened before event B, there is no alternate cause, and the effect did not cause the cause. That is no reverse causality. These are the three assumptions. If you negate any of these assumptions, the causality in the conclusion will not hold true. It will break down. Let's therefore now design the look at the framework. So a causal argument is one in which the conclusion has the cause and effect. Remember this. And the core assumption is there is nothing else which is responsible for the stated effect. So the first step is to identify the causality, call it X, the effect, call it Y, and follow the 3 guidelines. First guideline is X happened before Y. That's the first assumption. No other relationship, no coincidence, nothing. Second guideline is nothing else caused Y, no alternate cause. Because if there is any other alternate cause, that will break the conclusion. And guideline 3 is there is no reverse causality. That means Y did not lead to X. And that's the framework that you can use for assumption questions on causality. So Sneha and some of the others who were asking earlier, I'll share with you an email ID at the end of the webinar. Please connect with them to get a recording of today's session. You cannot get the slides, Sneha. We will not give you the slides, but you can get a recording and you can go through the recording again. All right. Slides are not given out, sorry. Here's a question, and I want you to attempt this. I'll show you how to apply the framework on this question, okay? I'm going to give you 3 minutes to read this question because it's a longish stimulus. So take your time to read the stimulus. Lots of information there, okay? Yes, your time starts now. Atul, will not hold means will break. Will not hold true means the conclusion will not hold true means the conclusion will break. The conclusion will not be true. All right, your time is up. Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not bring up the polls. Let me just quickly bring up the polls for you to put your answers. Just give me one moment. I'm just going to quickly uh, publish the polls here. I'll count 5 while you're marking your polls. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, one of you was asking whether this is an official question. The first 2 questions that we did were from the official guide. This question is a GMAT whiz question. I've already told you that the entire GMAT Quiz course has been made by me. This question has also been made by me. It is definitely inspired by official questions and the structures that we find there. But this is a GMAT Quiz question. And I think a lot of you found this difficult because a lot of you have gotten this wrong. So 38% of you believe the correct answer is A. 7% of you believe it's B. 7% of you believe it's C. 15% believe it's D. And 30% believe it's E. Okay. All right. So there was another very good question asked by Ruthvika. She was asking that the passage contains a plan and goal. So how do we know this is a causal question? Very good question, Ruthvika. Now, let me iterate that a causality is one in which the conclusion says something caused something, or something will cause something, something will lead to something. All right. So you study the language of the conclusion, and that is how you understand whether it's what kind of question. Also remember in my, so I don't know, Ruthvika, if you were present at that time or not. In the introduction to today's session, I was telling everybody that sometimes there can be a combination of constructions. So in a plan goal question, you can have a causality. All right. All right. So yeah, that's there. Okay, let me set about implementing or explaining the solutions. Since a lot of you have gotten this wrong, please pay close attention. Now, this is a very long stimulus. Some of the official questions can be of this type, but it has a lot of information and you've got to connect the different pieces. So the first sentence itself tells you that crocodiles are not native animals of Fauna County. They were brought from somewhere else a long time back. All right. Then the second sentence contains even more information. It says a lot of hunting, that is excessive predation by the huge crocodile population now. Huge crocodile population now means the population has grown. Okay, they are now found in huge numbers. They are now hunting a lot. And what are they hunting? They are hunting the mena fish in huge numbers, enough to threaten the mena fish. And mena fish is the only source of omega-3 for the people of the county, which means we can draw an inference that if mena fish is reducing in numbers, the local people are facing a shortage of omega-3. That is an inference we can draw from these two sentences here. The next sentence contains the plan and the goal. Okay. They are planning to kill the crocodiles. How? They're going to introduce another fish which is poisonous for the crocodiles. So they are assuming that the crocodiles are going to eat that fish, not knowing that that fish is poisonous for them. And that is how the crocodiles will get killed. All right. However, the catch here is that that fish, Runa fish, is not bad for the humans. Okay, so that means probably they are also not bad for the mena, because if it is bad for the mena, then mena will also die. So there are some assumptions that are being made here that the Runa fish is not bad for the mena fish, but it is bad for the crocodiles. All right. So we have a plan and we have a goal. Now there's a however at the beginning of this sentence. However, there is a possibility the Runa will harm the small native lizards that live in the water. Okay, so now another entity has been introduced. So we've got the crocodiles, we've got the mena, we've got the Runa, and now we've got the native lizards. And this this particular part is telling us that plan might have a small drawback. It will kill the crocodiles, but it can also harm the small native lizards. The official's plan, therefore, so the therefore means this is the conclusion, may be good for the county people, but will obviously increase the threat to the native aquatic life. Native aquatic life here would include the Runa. Okay, remember the crocodiles are not native. So if you look at the conclusion, there are two parts to it. Plan may be good for the county people, but the plan will increase the danger to the native aquatic life. All right. It contains one cause and two effects. The cause is Runa fish, introduction of Runa fish, but that's going to have two effects. One effect may be good for the county people. So that means the crocodiles will get killed and MENA will be saved, and people can now get a restored supply of omega-3. Second effect is the threat to the native aquatic life will increase. Now, my question to all of you is, what is the main cause effect that we need to follow in order to find the assumption behind this? What is the main intention of the author? What is the main effect? Effect 1 or effect 2? Go ahead. Effect 1 or effect 2? Okay, some of you are saying effect 2, some of you are saying effect 1. How will we know which effect is more important? Notice how the conclusion says, plan may be good for the county people, maybe. So the author is not sure of that effect. But the plan will increase, the author is very certain. So here, the actual intention of the author is to tell us that the plan is going to increase the threat to native aquatic life. Effect 2 is more important here, okay? Small things that need to be noticed in the language so that you get the correct understanding. Okay? Once again, the second part of the conclusion is more important. The second effect is more important because the first effect is just about maybe good. But the main issue is it will definitely increase the danger to the native aquatic life. So from the paragraph, we know that Runa will harm the small native lizards, but how the plan will increase the danger, we need to understand that. Okay. Let's get set with our framework. The cause, plan to introduce Runa. Effect, it will increase the threat to native aquatic life. Now, since we have not yet put the plan into action, so X happened before Y does not apply here. Correct? No alternate cause can lead to the stated effect. That's the second guideline. No alternate cause can lead to the stated effect. What is this stated effect? This is the stated effect, right? Increase the threat to native aquatic life is stated threat. So how will we frame our assumption? Nothing else will increase the threat to the native aquatic life. The author assumes that nothing else at present can cause an increase in the threat to native aquatic life. So first assumption is nothing else presents a threat or a bigger threat to native aquatic life than the introduction of the poisonous Runa. Now, why are we talking about nothing else? So what else can present a threat? Remember, there is the crocodile, there is the MENA, there is the Runa. Okay. So we are already acknowledging that Runa could be a threat. So we are basically ruling out that crocodile is not a threat and MENA is not a threat to the native aquatic life. Because if they are the bigger threats, then the introduction of the Runa cannot be a threat. So, okay, we are assuming that the crocodiles are not a bigger threat, the MENA fish is not a bigger threat. Because then by killing the crocodile, we would be reducing the threat. All right. So, this assumption 1 is pointing to the crocodiles, croco not threat. Because if crocodile is a threat, then by killing the crocodile, you're reducing the threat. You're not increasing the threat. Okay. The third guideline was no reverse causality. That means if we can prove that the lizards themselves are not going to harm the Runa fish. All right. Because if the lizards harm the Runa fish, then the conclusion doesn't hold, right? If the lizards are harming the Runa fish, then the threat to the lizards is not increasing, it is decreasing. So with those two assumptions, let's move to the answer choice elimination. 38% of you chose A. 38% of you. A is not the answer. Why not? First of all, it's not a plan goal question. Okay, we are saying that officials plan will lead to an effect. Okay, so it's a causality question. So whether the officials have been able to come up with another plan or not doesn't matter to us. Okay, this is absolutely out of scope. We are concerned with whether this plan will increase the threat or not. Okay, now let's go to B. No one, 7% of you mark B. Control experiments have proved the ability of Runa to bring down the crocodile population. That we already know from the passage, right? I mean, it contains a highly poisonous, it says here, contains chemical poisonous to crocodiles. So this just tells us that we can kill the crocodiles, but it doesn't tell us whether it will increase the, threat to the native aquatic life or not. So this is out. C. We already know from the passage that the Runa can harm the small lizards. How they can harm, not important. Distortion. The crocodiles currently do not face the threat of predation. Now, this is an interesting question. It is talking about the crocodiles, and the choice is saying crocodiles are not being hunted by any other animal. Now, any animal could be water animal, could be land animal. Let's negate this option. If we negate the option, it says crocodiles currently face predation from some animals. Now, if the crocodiles are facing predation from the land animal, then by killing the crocodile, we are harming the land animals, okay? The wildlife is suffering. So this has no impact on the conclusion. So we are having no impact on the conclusion, which means this is not the correct answer choice. 15% of you mark this. If the predators of the crocodiles are aquatic animals, then by killing the crocodiles, we are harming the aquatic life, and this strengthens the conclusion. All right. So in no way can this be the correct answer. Correct answer is E, which says for the native lizard population, predation by crocodile is not a threat. So crocodiles are not a threat. This is in keeping with assumption 1. Okay. Again, I'm sure you might have questions on this. Let me know if you are clear with the explanation. If you want to take a closer look at the explanation, please go through the recording once more, because in the interest of the session, we want to go ahead with the next question. But if you really have a strong doubt or something, you can ask. All right. Now, I gave you the framework for the assumption questions of causality. Similarly, you can get questions on strengthen causality, weaken causality. I'm going to next provide you the points that you can use for strengthening causal arguments. So apart from the 3 assumptions, you can use 2 other strengtheners for causal arguments. So no reverse relationship, you already know. No alternate cause, you already know. There are 3 others that you can, like 3 other question option types that you can use to strengthen a causality. If you can prove that wherever the cause is not there, the effect is also not there, that will also strengthen the causality. If you can prove that wherever the cause occurs, the effect always occurs, that will also strengthen the causality. And you can always strengthen the causal conclusion directly by giving some parallel data to support the causality. I'm going to bring up a question for you to strengthen an argument. Remember, prove, you can strengthen a causality by proving that there is no reverse causality, there is no alternate cause, no x, no y, if x, then y, and direct data. Here comes the question. Again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to put this question into action, put the framework into action. Go ahead. Okay, the time is up. Please put in your answers while I start my countdown to count 5 and then end the polls. This is an official question, by the way. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well, we have an equal distribution over 3 of the options. 33% each for C, D, and E. Okay. Let's see which group is correct. Let's begin our analysis of the stimulus. A certain cultivated herb, okay, let's call this let's call this, let me call this a name. Let's say rose. Let's call this rose. Okay. Rose is one of a group of closely related plants. So we have CRP, closely related plants, and rose is one of these only. And these closely related plants thrive. Thrive means grow, flourish in soil with high concentrations of metals that are toxic to most other plants. So in short, what we have is, let's say we've got, let's call this group of plants CRP. Let's say there are other plants other than CRP. Let's call them OP. Rose is a part of this. And let's say we have toxic soil. Okay. So forgive my handwriting, guys. I'm writing with the mouse. We have toxic soil. So this is able to grow in toxic soil. This, let's say, is not able to grow in toxic soil. This is the meaning of the first sentence. How many of you all understood the first sentence with this much clarity? Yes, I'm just going to please answer a yes or no. How many of you understood the first sentence with this clarity? Because if you don't understand the sentence, you will make a mistake on this question. All right. So always break down the sentence. You can see how I'm reading, right? I break down the sentence in small pieces. I make sure I understand the meaning of that piece, and then only I move to the next piece. All right. And that gives me a crystal clear picture of the data. Okay. Thank you for being honest, guys. All right. So the first sentence is given us this picture. Let's see what the second sentence is saying. Agronomists studying the growth of this herb. So we have agronomists who are studying the growth of rose, have discovered that it means rose, produces large amounts of histidine. Okay, so rose is producing H. Now, if I were really analyzing the passage properly, I would think to myself, rose produces histidine, but does the passage tell us about the other plants of this group? Is it producing histidine? We don't know. Are these other plants producing histidine? We don't know. This is the missing information. But we know rose is producing histidine, and histidine is an amino acid which renders these metals chemically inert. Okay. H kills the, I'm just saying the toxic soil. Let's say it makes the toxic soil non-toxic. It renders the chemicals inert. All right. Hence, the herbs, that means roses' high histidine production, must be the key feature that allows it to grow in metal-rich soils. Okay. So, in short, the conclusion is saying that it is the high histidine produced by rose which is the cause behind the rose's ability to grow in metal-rich soil. So cause production of large amount of histidine in rose, effect rose can grow in metal-rich toxic soil. Okay. Now I'm going to do something, guys. I'm sure now you have understood this question crystal clear, with crystal clear clarity, right? So I'm going to give you one more chance to answer this question, okay? Let's see if any of you want to change your answer choices. So, sorry. Here's the question again. I'm going to bring up the polls again for you. And if you want, okay, you can change your answers. Not all of you have got it wrong, but yeah, let's see. So I'm just bringing up the poll. Question rerun. Sorry. And we have A, B, C, D, and E. Yep. Go ahead. Let's see, with a better understanding of this stimulus, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. All right, let me end the polls. I'm going to end the poll, guys. I hope you have put in your answers. Now, look at the difference, guys. Look at the difference. Just to give you a comparison, earlier 33% of you chose C, 33 chose D, and 33 chose E. With a better analysis of the stimulus, and I haven't even gone through the framework yet, instead of 33%, it came down to 25. This went off completely. And I think E now has, instead of this, it increased to 75%. E is the correct answer. All right. If you understand things with crystal clarity, so I'll just quickly go through the explanation. Okay. We have established the cause and effect. So the framework is production of large amount of histidine by rose. Effect is rose can grow in metal-rich soils which are toxic to other plants. The framework is Y did not cause X. We are saying that the toxic soil itself was not responsible for histidine production. 2, no alternate cause. That means the herb did not have, let's say, any other special adaptation apart from histidine which could have helped it to grow in the toxic soil. 3, no X, no Y. So histidine is absent in other plants. If I can prove that other plants don't have histidine and that is why they cannot survive in toxic soil, I will strengthen the conclusion. If I prove that histidine is present in other plants, that means this closely related plants which are growing in the toxic soil, then I will strengthen the causality. Okay. So with these 4, let's go through the options. Nobody marked A. A is not the answer. A is saying that herb can also grow where there is no toxic soil. So this is absolutely out of scope. B says histidine production is associated with production of some other amino acid. But since we don't know the function of this other acid, we cannot really comment on the cause-effect relationship. C, growing the herb in the soil with high concentration will reduce concentration in the soil. But how will the herb grow in the first place? That is what we need to prove, right? Our goal is to support that histidine helps in the growth. This is not telling us how we'll grow the herb. How will we grow the herb? Okay. So C is not a strength now. Concentration of histidine declines as the plant approaches maturity. But what helps the plant to grow in the first place? We don't know. Therefore, D is out. Correct answer is E. Others of the closely related group. So this was the rose, which has histidine, H. This choice is saying the others of the same group also have H. Proving that yes, H is definitely the reason why rose can grow in that particular toxic soil. Okay. Guys, so that brings us to the end of this webinar. You can write to support@gmatwiz.com if you want a recording of this webinar. Once again, just clarifying that we don't give out the slides or the PDFs to the webinar, but you can go through the recordings again, and that should really help you see clarity. I have shared with you already 2 links. One is the link to the free trial version of the course. You can take a look at that. And if you're struggling with your prep, you have taken, maybe you're a fresher to GMAT and you're struggling with your prep, or maybe you have taken the GMAT and you're still struggling with your prep, you are plateaued at a particular score, do connect with us by booking a call on calendly.com so that we can help you out. All right. If you have any other queries, I'll be glad to answer them in the next 1 minute. I'm still there. And do let me know if you found this webinar helpful. Your feedback is always valuable. It definitely encourages me to do more and more. And you can let me know if you want to see webinars on some other topics. I do hope the webinar was helpful. Okay. So thank you guys. Really a heartfelt thank you, because without you, the webinar wouldn't be a success, I wouldn't be able to take webinars. So you are my strength. Thank you so much for taking out your time on a Sunday morning or evening, as the case may be. And this is, yes, I do hope that all of you have benefited from the webinar to whatever extent that is possible. So thank you so much, and hope to see you around soon.